Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Ireland Chapter of PMI lunchtime webinar. My name is Katrina Collins and I'm the Events Director, and I will wish a Happy New Year for one last time to everyone who's just possibly joining us for the first webinar of 2021. So today we're on the topic of Microsoft Project and Power Apps. Today we have Baz, who's joining us from Wellingtone. We've had quite a few of our members expressing interest in finding out some more about Microsoft Project for the web. So we've invited Baz back to present on the topic and give a demo also. So some of you will be familiar, last year Baz ran a demo for us. He's an experienced Microsoft PPM consultant and a director at Wellingtone. So he's well placed to give us a demo on the products and answer some of your questions, as many of your questions as we can today. Before I hand over to Baz, I would also like to introduce Grace, who is assisting me to moderate this event. She is joining me on the events team as a volunteer to help set up and run events in 2021. Hi, Grace.
Hi, thanks for having me, Katrina, and hello, everyone.
Thanks for joining us, Grace. So we also, as usual, we have a Menti poll for you today. So remember, grab your phone or open another browser, go to menti.com and use the code 5726926. And Grace and I will be keeping an eye on the chat for any questions that you might have for Baz throughout the presentation and the demo. And we will also be reminding you of the Menti poll. There's a couple of questions as we progress through the slides, which Baz will point out to you. So it just leaves me to say, Baz, thank you very much for joining us, and I shall let you take over.
Thank you very much. If you bear with me, I'm going to share my screen. And once I do that, I will then get started. Oops, let me just exit out of something else. Bear with me 2 moments. Okay, we're nearly good to go. You should be able to see my screen in just a second. As soon as I get the setting working. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Can you?
Yep, it's just coming up there. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Take it away, Baz. That looks
fantastic.
Great.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. And by the way, I will stop my video just to save on the bandwidth and to keep the focus very much on the presentation for today. So again, thank you for joining the second webinar in this series to discover how Microsoft Project for the web can be extended with Microsoft Power Apps to create a powerful project and portfolio management solution. And as a side note, as Katrina already mentioned, this session builds on the previous webinar, so I won't be providing a complete introduction to the new project. However, I will be delivering an overview within the live demo before going on to then demonstrate how the core capabilities can be extended with Power Apps. So the agenda for today, I'll start with a quick intro to Wellington before providing a brief overview of the value add that can be offered through Power Apps in addition to the core capabilities of the project. I'll then provide a live demo showcasing the solutions, all of course within Microsoft 365. And at the end, as already mentioned, we are going to have a Q&A session. So if you've got any questions, please do keep posting them and we will get onto those a bit later. So a bit about us as a startup of 10. So we started way back in 2001 as a pure project management consulting firm based in Windsor. We've now got offices in the UK, in Ireland and in Spain as well. And as a company, we offer a wide variety of services that span consultancy, training and technology with a real focus on PMO, project and work management. And over the years, we've managed to collect quite a few badges as well. In particular, we're recognized now as a specialist Microsoft Gold PPM partner and as a P3M3 accredited consulting organization. So we often conduct maturity assessments and that kind of thing. We also run and compile the annual State of Project Management report, and we deliver the Future PMO conference, which takes place annually in London. And of course, this is all pandemic permitting, so we'll have to see how the year pans out. Further details on all of this available at Wellingtone And of course, you can also check out futurepmo.com as well. And over the last 20 or so years, we've been quite fortunate really to have worked with quite a diverse and eclectic mix of clients. A number of case studies are available on our website, so please do go and check those out. Again, the address for that is displayed in the lower left-hand corner. So that brings us to the first couple of questions. So Katrina, over to you for the Mentimeter.
Perfect. Well, let's just take myself off mute there and let me just share my screen for everyone if you can hopefully see this. And trying to figure out the technology is always fun. So hopefully you guys can see, I was just saying in the chat there, we've had quite a few people joining us from quite a few places. So we've got a good mix of people today. So as Baz said, we've got a couple of questions as we run throughout. So we've got a good mix of people joining us. I'm just going to move forward here so you guys can see, just let us know in the chat what type of organization that you're currently working for. Maybe you're working in pharmaceuticals, maybe you're working in IT, public sector. We know from our previous experience that we have people working across a lot of different industries. Essentially, we've got quite a few people that, so just thanks to everyone for answering on the Menti poll as well, because it does, hopefully it gives you a chance to talk to us and interact with us as well. But also we do get to see where people are joining us from. So Baz, as you can see there, actually, as we were saying, we were chatting earlier, we've got quite a few people coming through in the whole area of consultancy, financial services.
Quite a few verticals in there as well, so financial services, healthcare. And what's interesting is if you look at our client list, we've worked with a real diverse mix of organizations. And the one thing that we tend to find is that despite the fact that between different sectors, there might be unique terminology that's used, project management is still project management, and all organizations, all PMOs essentially face the same pain points. So lack of visibility, lack of resource visibility, lots of manual process, a lack of adherence to governance and so forth.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, from speaking for myself, I'm currently working in the insurance industry, but I've worked in telecoms and I've worked in IT, and I've typically worked within a PMO at some stage. And the type of applications have more frequently than not been a pain point maybe for us project professionals. So Excel, I love that Excel is the first answer in there, guys. So what applications do you typically use? I'm going to hold my hand up as well. I have Microsoft Project Plan. I use it quite regularly, but I find I do a lot of my work in Excel, and I use Visio quite a lot as well. But I like Microsoft Project because it does really nice timelines, and particularly when you're presenting to senior management, it's a good, it gives a good visual, you know, to pop into slides where someone isn't looking for all the detail. We're getting some comments in the chat as well. There's people that are using Excel and OneNote and PowerPoint. So, you know, Smartsheet has come up there as well. Actually, that's one that I'm looking at too. But there's quite a lot of Microsoft Planner, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Project Online. So quite a few of them in there.
No, it's a really good mix, but the two biggest ones seem to be MS Project. So what I'm going to show is really the evolution of MS Project.
Yeah.
And Excel as well is very interesting. We tend to find a lot of the organizations that we go into, they do have quite a wide spread of spreadsheets. Used for anything from, you know, creating Gantt charts to collecting RAID log items to even doing things like resource management. But it is a very difficult way in which to work. Okay. Should I take over my screen again and should we come back to these questions a bit later?
Right ahead. Thanks everyone for answering those. Baz has a couple more questions coming up later on, so we'll let you, any questions, pop them into the chat, and we do have comments coming up on the Menti poll as well later on, but I know some people like to do the chat, so if you have questions as he goes through the demo, just pop them into the chat there for now.
Thank you very much. So let's continue, and let's start talking about Project for the Web and Power Apps. And before we delve into it, let's take a quick step back, because I'm sure that some of you are probably wondering, well, what the heck is Power Apps in the first place? So there is a brief description being displayed on the screen at the moment. And in a nutshell, if I had to describe it, it's a solution from Microsoft that enables you to build apps and applications and connections between different solutions And when we think about this in the context of project, I often describe it as a Lego set, because you can build a highly customized PPM solution around the core project offering, something that is molded to your ways of working. So it's an app building solution. Microsoft badge this as being low code, no code. But when you get into the realms of building the kind of things that I'm going to be demonstrating later, it's definitely not low code. There is some complexity behind it. However, that's something we would take care of in the first place. As I mentioned on the previous webinar, Project for the Web, otherwise known as Project Plan 1, is a core offering aimed at the accidental project manager, as you can see on this slide. Today, we're still looking at Project for the Web, however, with a focus on Project Plans 3 or 5, which are required if you want to connect to or build and run Power Apps that access Project for the Web data, which is, of course, what we want to do in order to provide power users, such as PMOs, with access to the more sophisticated functionality that they would typically require. For example, the ability to add governance workflows to support the defined project life cycles. There are some other examples being displayed on the slide as I talk. And to illustrate further what you get with Project Plan 1 as a standalone license versus Plan 3 or 5, alongside Power Apps, have a very quick look at this page. So the green elements represent Project Plan 1, which when used by itself enables you to create projects and the tasks within them. It's pretty basic, and that's literally all it does. The purple elements highlight example components or entities that you can add using Power Apps. And as you can see, using both Project for the Web and Power Apps together, you can access a solution that's much richer in functionality. It can provide you with the ability to prioritize your projects, provide access to live portfolio views, give you access to RAID logs, governance frameworks, and so on. And for those of you that have maybe used Microsoft Project Online historically, or even now, we can effectively recreate Project Online with Power Apps and obviously with Project for the Web combined. So this is obviously what I'm going to be demonstrating now. So just before I go into that, I know that Katrina, we do have a few of a questions. So Katrina, again, should I hand back to you to look at the responses on these particular questions?
Yep, absolutely. Go for it.
And I should say, by the way, when you look at question number 2, when I ask, have you heard of Project for the Web, I mean prior to this session. So is it something that you've come across before?
Yeah, so have you heard of Microsoft Project for the Web and Project Plan 1? And I would be similar to, I wouldn't have actually heard of it before this, and I do use Microsoft at work, so it's interesting. So guys, do you even have these apps currently at work as well? Because sometimes I guess people have fairly basic access. I know myself, I've had to ask for certain things to get licenses for them, so I'm able to use them. We're actually we can experiment with them.
Yeah, I think what we tend to find is that, a lot of the time, especially larger organizations, they might already have the licenses. But often people just don't know that licenses are available, so they're not switched on, and it's just going unused. And going back to the initial question of, have you heard of Project for the Web? I guess it was almost kind of a 50-50 split, wasn't it? In the final response, from what I can recall, which is fine because we're here today to learn about Project for the Web, and I will be demonstrating it here. Okay.
Yeah, but even having heard of it, you may not be familiar with it as well, so it's probably good to get a demo and see what you could actually do with it. I'm personally particularly interested in the Power Apps because that's not something that I would have been familiar with before this.
Yeah. Now, this, however, is a very encouraging response to this question. So, have you heard of? What was the question again? Is Power Apps available within your organization? And actually, there's a good number of people that are saying yes. And what we are finding generally is that organizations, because a lot of the time an off-the-shelf solution doesn't quite suit their requirements, they are now starting to adopt Power Apps more and more because there are multiple use cases for it. There's so much you can do with it. So organizations are buying the enterprise licenses, and people are going away, or departments are going away and building connected applications to suit their requirements. So hearing that it's available in a lot of organizations is it's really, really good. Really good to see that.
Okay, I shall hand back to you, and for everyone,
Thank you very
just
much.
to let you know, you can do, if you've got questions as we go through the demo, you can pop them in actually to the Menti poll, because I'll open that. You can actually just type questions in, and people are already starting to do that. But you can also pop them into the chat here in Zoom. So either or works essentially, and we'll keep an eye on them. Myself and Grace will keep an eye on them here in the background, Baz.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is start sharing my demo environment now. Can you see my Office 365 homepage, by the way, Katrina?
Yes, I can. That's perfect.
Yeah,
yep.
Very good. Okay. So as I said, I'm going to start off by demonstrating Project for the Web first, to give you all an overview of what that solution looks like, what it feels like, and the type of functionality that it can provide. And then I'll demonstrate how it can be enhanced using Microsoft Power Apps over and above. So we'll start here, and this is, of course, the homepage to Office 365. And from here, we are going to go straight into Project. However, in true Blue Peter fashion, if anybody remembers that show, I've already got the page open here. So this is the first page that most users would see. It's called Project Home, and it shows the end user a single aggregated view of all of the projects that they are managing or involved with. And these could be projects that have been originated in Project for the Web or Project Online. And in due course, I think this is actually going to open up to Azure DevOps as well. And along the top, I've already got some of my favorite projects pinned along the top. But again, we'll ignore all of this, and we'll go in and create a blank new project. And the first thing I'm actually going to do is give this project a name. So let's call this the PMI webinar. And the PM will just be the default user that I'm logged in as, which is Ted Danson. Not that you can really make out the picture there, but that's actually my colleague Antonio Berra, who happens to look like Ted Danson. So that's why he's gone with that name in this environment. Sorry? His resemblance is really uncanny, I have to say. But okay, so we've created a project. There are 3 views that are available, and I am going to go into each one of the views shortly. But the first thing I'm going to do is actually start creating a brand new project. So I'll go in with something really simple, and we'll create a few tasks. Let's go to task 4, done. I'll start creating a bit of structure now. So I'll take these 4 tasks and I will make these subtasks. I've also got the ability to go in and add columns. And these columns that I'm adding are from, out of the box views that are already predefined. So I can add in things like percentage complete. I can add in the various buckets, effort, and so forth. But in this example, let's go with effort. Let's drop in effort remaining as well. Let's also drop in depends on. And why don't we add in a custom column? We'll call this one status, and we'll create that. So we've started creating now, obviously, a bit of structure to what we're doing here. Let me just make that a bit shorter as well. So what I'll do now is start assigning some resources. And in order to do this, all I need to do initially is start typing in the name of a colleague. This then goes off to Azure Active Directory, looks at the Office 365 user profiles, and I can then pick and choose and add people. So I'm going to add Megan. And straight away, it's asking if I want to now connect my project to a group. So I've got 2 options. I can either create a brand new group or add to an existing group. And when I talk about group, I'm talking about an Office 365 security group. And for those of you that are familiar with Microsoft Teams, you'll be hopefully familiar with the concept of going in, creating a team, adding members to the team, and then those members can pretty much get access to anything that you've created as part of that group. So this ties in again to the same exact security model. I'm going to go and add this to an existing group that we have, and it is going to be this one here, add and assign. And as soon as I've done that, you'll notice that the number of group members has jumped up, but straight away, I've actually got a pre-populated list of team members now. I can, of course, go in and add other people to this as well, but we'll keep it simple. I'll add a few people in. So let's assign something to Alex and something to Lydia as well. I can now start typing in durations. So let's say 5 days for this, 4 days for that, 7 days for this. Ooh, 47 days, that's maybe a bit too much. Let's say 7 days instead. Let's go for 10 days there, and we'll go for 3 days there. Effort is now automatically populated based upon the duration, but of course you can detach the two. So even though the duration might be 5 days, we could turn around and say, well, there's only 2 days of effort required across those 5 days. I'm just giving you a bit of extra time to do the work. Dependencies we can drop in, so depends on. And when I click on the final task, it's automatically showing me the earlier tasks to be able to create those links. And in fact, I can create links in a number of ways by selecting things, adding links that way. We've also got the status field here as well. And what I'm going to do here is actually add in some visual cues. So let's go for green, amber, and red. And straight away, I've started creating a visual status of the KPIs here. So we can say this one's on track. Let's go to the next one and say this one is maybe at risk. And we'll go into this one and say that this one is blocked. And to be honest, you could drop in any emoji you want. It doesn't have to be red, amber, green. It could be blue, black, anything at all. So again, we've started creating a plan very easily here in Project for the Web. And for those of you that are maybe familiar with Microsoft Project on the desktop, then this is worlds apart. Whereas with the desktop, you literally need training before you can get started. There's a very complicated ribbon toolbar. There's a multitude of options here. Anyone without any training really can get started with building a basic schedule. But in the background, this actually shares the same scheduling engine as Microsoft Project on the desktop. So it is still incredibly powerful, but with a much simpler skin on top. So this was the grid view. And what I'm going to do now is jump over to the board view. And for those of you that are using Microsoft Planner, and I did see a few mentions there of Planner earlier on, there were also some mentions of Asana and I think there was a Trello maybe in there as well. Then this is essentially the same type of visualization. In fact, this is lifted from Planner. So if you're used to using Planner, this is the same look and feel, the same interactivity that you've got access to here. So again, I can go in, create some custom buckets if I want. So I could have backlog, sprint 1, sprint 2, that kind of thing. Or I can go in and select from some predefined views. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So I've selected to group by progress. And by doing that, I've now got 3 buckets available. I've got not started, in progress, and completed. And to change the status of any one of these tasks, all I need to do is click, drag, and drop. This has now been updated to 50% complete. And if I go to completed, it's now marked as being 100% complete. And this, by the way, is replicated across all of the views. So task 1 being marked as completed. If I jump over now to the timeline view, again, you can see task 1 is marked as being completed. This is my favorite view because it's highly interactive. Because if I want to create some links between the tasks, all I need to do is scroll onto the task, wait for this to pop up. Once it does, I click, drag and drop, and I've created a link. And again, I'll do the same thing there, and I'll do that one more time. And if I decide that actually we don't need as much time assigned to a specific task, all I need to do is shorten it down. So you can see that it's highly interactive, very visual, and many people are visual people in the first place, so this would work for them incredibly well. Something else you can actually do within the system is actually go in, copy projects. So if you've got a template set up and you want to replicate it, you can do that. You can also go and access a centralized Teams area, a file storage area, I should have said, a SharePoint site, which is where you would store your documentation. And talking of documentation, you can also actually go into the task details and add attachments against the individual tasks. So again, this was a very quick look at Project for the Web, Plan 1. This is the basic functionality here. What I'm going to do is jump over now to Power Apps. And Power Apps, again, we've explained what it is at a very high level. If you do want to know at a greater extent what it can do and what's possible, then please feel free to get in touch with me offline. We've built a series of apps, and I'm going to be going into the Wellingtone PWA app. And again, I've already got that open here. So going into this, so this is actually Power Apps. This sits within the Power Platform. And for those of you that are familiar with Dynamics, Dynamics 365. This is the same underlying platform, but this is all built on. So this is a portfolio overview of all of the projects that we have in the system, and I can scroll through this and have a look at these items, but I can also go in and choose to view active projects, all projects, closed projects, those that have been postponed, and you can create other views as well. But I can also go in and apply some custom groupings. So to illustrate this, I'm going to just group everything by PM view. So let's have a look at all of the projects grouped by red, amber, and green, just so that we know where we need to go and maybe focus our attention on and pay a bit more attention to that. But what I'm going to do is just switch over now into a actual project. So I'll drill down. And again, this is the power of Power Apps over and above what we've looked at so far. And on the screen at the moment is a page that we've created. And this adds a lot more detail around the bare bones of just the schedule by itself. And to put this into perspective, you can actually go in and view the schedule here in the task window, and that's probably going to take a moment to load. So I'm going to leave that and go back to the summary. And by the way, if you do want to view things like your tasks, you can either view it here embedded within Power Apps, or you can just open up the project here in Project for the Web in the background. But going back to this page, so we've created a series of tabs along the top, each tab containing different elements linked to this project. But here we've got various entities that are enabling us to capture details linked to the project. So if I chat through this now, we've first of all created a general tab, and within the general tab we have project type. Is it a simple project, a standard project? This, of course, is entirely bespoke. So whatever project types you want to set up, we can set up. And you're probably wondering what the difference is between the two. So to, again, illustrate the differences here, or the power of this solution, we're currently looking at a standard project, and it has this stage gate linked to it. If I now switch to a simple project, you'll see, as an example, that the stage gates, or some of them have been removed, so it's been largely simplified. And in fact, we can take this further and even hide certain fields within these entities that aren't relevant for a simple project that would be applicable to a standard project. But if I go back to that particular project type, you'll see that we have also got a supporting stage gate along the top. And if I click on these individual stage gates, you can see that they're all accompanied by a checklist. And these checklists, again, are entirely bespoke. And we can set this up. I'm going to go through and mark yes to a lot of the questions. I'm going to then try and go to the next stage. And it won't let me do that because there's something that I've not responded to. So I'll respond to it now. I'll respond to that as well. And I'll say all good. And then I click on next stage, and you will see that it's going to move on now to initiation. So again, some alignment against your governance framework is possible through Project for the Web and Power Apps being used together. Going back to the general entity here, we've also set up a field to capture things like project ID. We're enabling PMs to type in descriptions of a project. You can define fields like portfolio. And if I go in and switch between the two, you'll see that additional fields become available depending on what you've selected. So there is some intelligence behind the scenes as well. You can add this to roadmaps. You can align this to a program. You can even link this to a parent project as well and see hierarchy being built out. So I'm going to go and set this back to what it was initially. But here we can also set things like project status. And you can see lots of options are available. We've also got areas here where some of the data is being fed in from the plan. So this is looking at the total amount of effort that's been built into the schedule. But here we've also defined a high-level budget. You can, of course, create something that's a lot more detailed than what we are illustrating here. You can see actuals being represented here as well, and lots of interactive components here on the page. Further down, we've also got a project manager's update section where we can see the overall view of the PM. Is it red, amber, or green? In this case, it's highlighted as amber. And here we've also got embedded into this page the RAID logs as well. So this is issues. We're looking at the issue log there. If I click down, we can also see the risk log. I can also see things like actions, and This is where the PMs can provide a bit more detail around their update. So yes, you're saying it's amber or red, but here they can also provide a bit of commentary to actually provide a bit more detail behind that. And if you want to add things like new risks, it's very easy. There's a new risk button there. I'm going to click on that, and straight away you're going to see this form pop up. And this form, again, gives you an example of what could be done. We can tailor these and mold these as well to your ways of working. So if you've already got existing RAID logs in place and they're very unique to your way of doing things, then again, we can replicate those using Power Apps. I'm going to cancel out of this and discard the changes that I've just made there. So that was one way of looking at your RAID log. You can also go in and view the RAIDs presented in a slightly different way as I'm demonstrating there. If I go back to the summary, I'm actually going to demonstrate a couple of other things here. So first of all, we've got the ability to go in and essentially export the key details from the document or the project onto a single page. So if I now say, well, extract this detail and put it into a Word document, I can do that. It's exporting now to Word. I'm going to open up that Word file. In fact, it's opening up here. Whoop, I need to drag it back on. There we go. So this is the file that we've just exported. And you can see that it's extracting the project information, the description. It's capturing all of the risks, issues. This, again, is something that we've set up to illustrate what can be done. And literally, you can pull out any detail that you want from this. We can also actually choose to export it directly to a PDF rather than a Word document that could be edited. So this preview is going to load up. And then I'll move on to the next part of the demo. So there we go, project for the web. It's exactly the same as the Word document, only difference being that this is a PDF. And I have got the ability there to download it and store it maybe locally. I can straight away email it as well. And I could even save it back to Dynamics. So closing out of this, I've also got the ability to go and view things in a hierarchy layout. So if you've got a program of work, if you've got a portfolio and you want to see which sub-projects belong to that group, so to speak, you can do that very easily. So this is the project that we are looking at the moment. These are all of the sub-projects linking to it. And we've even got a sub-project here that's linked to sub-project 2, and this is sub-project 2.1. And if I wanted to, I could just click on that project name and we would be going into that project detail. But going back to this, we've also got access through all of this to things like Power BI. So Power BI reports, in this example, they are embedded within this specific window. So I'm going to let that load up very quickly. But then what I'm going to do actually is open this up in Power BI itself. So Teams is something that I'll come back to as well. So, I mean, I've demonstrated very quickly the power of Power Apps there, just to give you an example of what is possible. Of course, there's a lot more that we can do. We can build in things like prioritization features, more complex financial management as well. So again, there's a lot that we can do, but that was really to give you a taster as to what is possible, to get you thinking about the possibilities. I'm going to switch over now very quickly to Power BI. This is something that I did actually cover in my original webinar, so I'm not going to go into too much detail other than to say that there are 9 out-of-the-box reports that you get with Project for the Web, and these standard reports are only looking at the data from the schedule. They are not looking at the data that we are capturing subsequently in Power Apps, but of course we can produce reports that are a lot richer than what you're seeing on the screen at the moment. I'm going to jump over to Teams really quickly as well, just to demonstrate and illustrate the fact that actually all of this can be brought together using Microsoft Teams. So within Teams, you've obviously got your post window, which is really quite good for team communication generally. You've got access to your file repository, and this is the file repository that we would be able to link to as well through Project for the Web, as I demonstrated earlier. And of course, you can also access your plan here as well, which is quite handy. And this is fully editable, so if I want to move things around, of course, I can do all of that. And I don't know what I'm doing here, so I'm probably messing up somebody's plan. But again, you can do all of this here. And you can also access Power BI reporting through this particular window. So I'm going to move on to a couple of other topics now really quickly before wrapping this demo up. So first of all, in order to get access or read-only access to Project for the Web, in fact, anybody can do it with any one of these subscriptions. So if you've got E1 plans, F plans, or any other plans that maybe exist that are applicable or open you up for this read-only access, this page I can provide a link to it later, but this gives you an overview of which plans give you read-only access to data from Project for the Web, which is quite handy. Project for the Web as a solution is actually quite different to any other solutions that Microsoft have released historically with this project management theme going through them, because historically it would have been a product team within Microsoft that would have come together and they might have spoken to a few select partners to understand what features they should build into the next version of Project. Whereas with Project for the Web, they've released something that's quite simple and quite, quite embryonic in its nature. Whereas they are opening it up to the wider public through the user voice forum, which is now displayed on the screen, and they are inviting feedback. They want the users to give their opinion on what's working well, which features they think are missing. So these are some ideas that have been submitted, and you can see the votes that have been coming in from the general public as to which features they feel would be beneficial. And if I go on to some of the other categorizations here, which one did I want to have a look at? Let's have a look at the top ideas. So people are recommending that there should be two-way integration with Microsoft Planner, and the Microsoft product team now are interacting and saying, well, give us more details. And there are other submissions here, such as give us more planner capability within Project for the Web. So the ability to add things like task level checklists, to add document attachments. So some of this functionality has already been built in, the attachments functionality that I demonstrated earlier, but other functionality is now in development. And you can see the statuses that are coming back here from Microsoft. And you do also have access to the Office 365 roadmap. So again, I've filtered this by project, and here we can see which features are now in development and which ones have been launched. So again, Microsoft are really engaged with the audience here for project. So by tapping into Project for the Web or even into Power Apps, you can really shape the way in which they are actually going to develop. So that really concludes my demo. I'm going to go back now to my slide deck and continue with this presentation, and then we will get on with the actual Q&A session as well. So let's talk about next steps. So if you would like to learn more, I can provide you with a tailored demonstration focused around your own objectives. So please do get in touch using the details that are coming up in just a moment to arrange that. In fact, one of the things that I am offering, and I did offer the last time around as well, is I can send you, if you reach out to me, I can send you a link, book in a 30-minute or a 1-hour slot. And there's no cost linked to that. And it's literally just you and myself talking through your current situation and maybe running you through a slightly more detailed demo of the solution that we've been looking at today. If you would like to take a deeper dive, then we can also deliver what we would refer to as envisioning workshops, which would be used to look at your current ways of working, to get a better understanding of your pain points, and for us to then show you or play back to you the art of the possible. The output from those types of sessions is typically a tailored implementation roadmap alongside a tailored proposal as well. And of course, if you want to go all the way and start deploying or running a proof of concept, again, please get in touch. We can help you with that as well. So I'm going to say thank you. That is the end of this short session that we'd planned.